So hi guys, welcome back into the second part of the British Army tactics through the ages, and this part is, say, 1850s right up until roughly 1900. So last part I looked at the kind of Battle of Waterloo era, Napoleonic era style of British Army and their tactics, and now I'm just going to look at the Crimean War onwards. So in 1853, the British Army finally had brought out and adopted a rifle, or specifically a rifled musket, percussion cap, much more much more powerful and reliable than the old land pattern musket, Brown Bess, which was the patent 1853 Enfield Rifled musket. It's called a rifled musket because technically it's a musket in the way that you have to load through the muzzle, ramming the round in, or the bullet and everything. But it's rifled. That means the rifling was first developed in it was first used to clean out fouling from each shot. But when the German mercenaries used them on the American side in the American American Revolutionary War, they found out that rifling gave accuracy and spin. So technically, it was originally to clear out the fouling for each shot, but then German mercenaries using it on what I would call the enemy side, the American side, found out that it actually had a better purpose. But yeah, so the round for the British Army's brand new pattern 1853 Enfield rifled musket is the 58 caliber Minable, developed by a fellow in France called Claude Edion Minet, and very powerful, can reach up to 1,000 yards, which is astonishing for the time, used right through the Crimean War. And again, the British Army during the kind of Crimean War, their tactics, again, same tactic as the Napoleonic era, is volley fire in one long line. But they have this volley fire, but they also have file fire. And what file fire is that the first two guys, so for example, if one guy's there, one guy's there, one guy's there, one guy there, these two guys, one at the front, one at the back, first guy will fire first. When he's reloading, the second guy will fire, and then onwards each person would do it, and then they would kind of constantly do that right through. And they still had the cavalry square, as I mentioned before, which I'm not going to go on about, which I've mentioned before. First rank kneels down, second rank fires. Yep. Then if you skip kind of the 1860s, really, you've the Snider Enfield, nothing really changed apart from the first ever 577 grain and .45 caliber bullet, very similar to a Snider ammunition, but much more long, basically fatter and longer, which is the 450 caliber Snider. Again, used in the Abyssinian crisis war only once, really, was it used. And again, tactics stayed the same. By 1874, British Army adopted the single shot, not really repeating rifle, but single shot, single loading Martini Henry rifle. Now the tactics, with using that, there was still line infantry tactics, still volley fire, but it wasn't as tightly packed together. It was much more spread out. So instead of having one guy there and instead of having two people at the back here, one guy there, it was much more spread out even, because you actually had accurate rifles. Everybody did. Yep. So the defensive square changed very slightly because, I say very slightly. It was much more kind of ease off a bit. There wasn't tight packed men firing muskets and holding their bayonets up in the air. It was, quite even out, still tightly packed, but even out, because they had accurate rifles, the Martini Henry rifle being very powerful. This Martini Henry bullet, being fired but found a bullet and put back in, is the 577 by 450 boxer cartridge, because the primer original ones it would basically be inside there a box instead of a round circle. Then by December of 1888 the British Army had adopted the world's first magazine repeating rifle, and that's the M.L.M, the Magazine Lee Metford. And now this isn't an actual 1880s, 1890s .303 British round. This is an example from way after that, from 1942 casing. But yeah, so first of a repeating rifle, magazine Lee Metford Mark 1, 8 rounds in the magazine. Absolutely crazy for the British Army, 8 rounds, more than one, and a brilliant rapid fire. Now the tactics kind of in that, they still had volley fire, but it wasn't, as I said, like the Martini Henry, it wasn't mass volley fire. It's much more controlled because they had rapid repeating rifles. They still used they did invent what was called a magazine cut-off, which is you have your 10 rounds. So having 8 rounds in the magazine in reserve for any massive engagement. So for example, the magazine cut-off is over those 8 rounds on the Lee Metford rifle. I haven't actually done a video on that, so I'll probably put a link in the description to it. It won't be easy, it won't be hard to find. So that means you open the bolt and you've got access to putting 1 round in after a time, bolt the rifle, fire, open the bolt, just like the Martini Henry rifle. Yeah. Now the tactic using a Lee Metford rifle in the late 1880s, early 1890s, and the same with a Lee Enfield Mark 1 rifle, is stand in line, first rank. This is just for these 2 rifles, the Lee Metford and Lee Enfields, would stand in a line, and it would be the first row would actually be kneeling down on one knee, firing. Then the second row will be on, standing up, firing over the heads. And it basically changed from the mass grouping volley fire to basically the defensive square and the tactical line kind of put together. They still had the square, as I said, during both the Martini Henry and the Lee Metford and Lee Enfield Mark 1 eras, 1880s, 1890s. But again, as I said, the little change of the line infantry tactic of originally having mass tight-necked group volley fire to more of a slightly tight but mainly spread out more concentrated rapid fire, with having first rank on one knee firing and then the second rank firing over the shoulder, which they used in the Martini Henry rifle as well as at the time modern repeating Lee Metford and Lee Enfield Mark 1s. And they did this right up till the turn of century in 1900, when they were still fighting the Boer War, in the Second South African War or the Second Anglo-Boer War, still using Lee Metford and Lee Enfield Mark 1s, and still using the drill with magazine cut-off, magazine in reserve, cut-off, only using fire, load, repeat, single shots into a massive attack, and then your sergeant or your officer in command would shout magazine ready or magazine fire. Then the guys will open the magazine cut-off, open and close the bolt, rack the bolt, and then the mass volley fire kind of would commence, rapid firing. That's kind of it, right up until the British Army developed the short magazine Lee Enfield Mark III, or really specifically the Mark I, which evolved into the Mark III in 1907. That's kind of when those tactics, the volley fire tactics and the mass tight knit group of volley firing and defensive cavalry, defensive square, stopped basically completely, because repeating arms. By 1907, 1910, the short magazine Lee Enfield Mark III was in service, and really rapid fire, and much more kind of men go over here, men go over there, you know, more spread out, proper repeating. And then of course back in the 1880s, 1884, the Maxim machine gun came along, which was of course helped and would be put alongside the volley firing men of the Lee Metford and Lee Enfield Mark I eras of the 1880s, 1890s, fighting off the Sudanese and things like that, and the Mahdi. So, thanks for watching, guys. This has been quite a little quick, quickish series on the British Army tactics and, British Army tactics through the ages, including equipment and ways that men operated, you know, at the times, mainly tactics. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, yeah, that's the end of part 2. I'll see you guys in the next video.